Welcome, and thank you for joining us for another edition of Live by Heart Today.
Show 46, Growing into Love.
With your hosts, Dawn Spiegelberg and Wendy R. Wolf. Our show begins now. Streaming from Retro Earth Studio and brought to you by
Learn to play jazz piano like a pro, by a pro, with Jazz Piano Pro Essentials at jazzpianopro.com.
and wearehistorically.com. Conscious Human Apparel. It's time for the next episode of Live by Heart
Today.
Hello, and welcome to the Live by Heart Today show number 46. This is a show designed to help you navigate change, uncertainty, and the world we found ourselves in. We'll talk a little bit about science, a little bit about how our body works, a little bit about intuition, and a lot about transformation. I'm Dawn Spiegelberg, a posture therapist and coherence coach. We're focusing on living agreements, and today's theme is growing into love. With me for today's Heart to Heart is my co-host, Wendy R. Wolf, professional transformation facilitator. Welcome, Wendy.
Very glad to be here, Dawn. And I really, I'm a big fan of this topic. And I believe the combination of living agreements, noticing in this case that we have deep agreements in our soul. It's kind of like we're oak waiting in the acorn to grow into who we are, each of us unique. We've talked about this idea before. I call it teleos. That's our part of our agreement. I'm here to become this beautiful oak or this beautiful orange tree, or you're the beautiful pear tree, whatever. And if we couple that with the idea that we're growing into, yes, love, also life, also our own unique way, I really feel excited about this topic and sharing with folks today. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm remembering images of seeds growing, and there's a reason why seeds come in packets, and the packets are labeled. And the children that we have, that we give birth to, they arrive without a labeled package. So we don't know what they're going to grow up to become. And it's our job. It's an honor to help them develop, to give them the right environment. So if we're talking specifically about seeds and not children for a moment, in order for a seed to begin germination, there needs to be a certain temperature, right? The soil has to have a certain configuration, right? It can't be too sandy. It can't be, depending on the seed, it can't be too hard. And it has to have moisture and, specific environment in order for it to begin the process of growing. And what's beautiful is that once the environment reaches those particular set points that allow the germination to occur, that's the key to the seed, that environment will support its continued growth. Mm-hmm. So when we first bring children home, there are things we develop. Some kids sleep through the night early on, some kids don't. Some kids need the vacuum turned on while they're sleeping or to fall asleep, and some kids don't, right? So you're discovering the environment that is most beneficial for your little seed to grow. Mm-hmm. And it takes some trial and error because there isn't a manual.
Yeah. Yeah. And, some are desert plants, like they need very little water, and some need a lot of water. And it really matters that we pay attention to what they need and be conscious. And I just want to aside here and say what they need, what we need in our own reparenting, what we've gotten in our own growth, and what we haven't, and that we can bring to it. But back to the kids and the seeds. Yeah.
I think we should talk about the reparenting part, because what I love about this is for our continued growth, even with a big developed tree, it still needs water. It still requires the right nutrient combination.
Mm-hmm.
Trees require the sun. So there are a lot of things in our environment as adults to continue feeding and supplying for us. And when we don't get those things, we're not as capable of helping and assisting our children or others around us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And as we grow up, we have gotten certain things that we haven't. And how do we, as more and more conscious, more and more mature souls, really allow the things that we need to become who we really are, and to serve how we really serve, to bring our oranges to the world, because we're orange trees. Like, and so far we haven't seen many oranges, or they're very small, or whatever I don't know what happens with oranges, but like, how can I ask, and how can I ask the universe, and how can I allow myself, oh, I'm an orange tree, maybe I'll enjoy it more in Florida. Maybe I'll do better in Florida than I do in Maine. No wonder. And that could be actually something, or it could be a metaphor. But how do we pay attention to what we need now, and also let go of what we don't need, that we are carrying in our backpack, that we got, the acculturation that we got in our family of origin, that doesn't work for us. So yeah, like that, I have to go snowshoeing. Well, if I'm an orange tree, it'd be kind of better if I was, by the ocean or something, somewhere warm.
Yeah. I like the idea of talking about acculturation and looking at the kinds of things I grew up with. So my parents always had cars that needed extra attention. And there was always some certain combination in order to get it to work properly, right? So to put the key in the ignition, you had to hold it up in order to get it to turn, right? There was always some little thing. And we were always making sure there was enough oil in them and gas in them, right? And the tires. So that's something I grew up with in my environment, that there was always some trick to the car. And right now I don't have that, right? I have a car. I can just get in, turn the key, and go.
Nice. That's nice. You can put your attention and creativity somewhere else.
Yes. Yes. It's different. I changed it. I chose to change it. And I think that's important to understand, because the environment that we're raised in is particular to how our parents develop it. So I grew up in a teeny tiny house. It was 10 feet by 40 feet. So we were really close. We were together all the time, right? Elbow to elbow. The Germans say Schulter und Schulter. Yeah. And that I feel like we're still pretty close now. We're still very close together. But we were close then because we had to be close.
Yeah, so that cement is very wet when we're young, especially like 1 to 5, 1 to 7, really wet, and we just soak up all this stuff. I know you're really good at talking about this, and I want you to, but we soak up all this stuff of how it is, how it should be, how I should be, how they should be, what I should do, what they should do. Like, it's just how it is. And I believe, I see over day after day in my work, I see how we and I bring all this stuff forward, and it doesn't fit anymore. Maybe I survived through it in childhood, maybe I thrived in it in childhood, but it doesn't suit me now. And can I play a different song? Can I allow a different thing, like you were talking about, a car that just works?
Yeah, the someone I follow mentioned this amazing insight that I hadn't thought about before. But once we leave home, at whatever age, some people 18, some people 16, right? Whatever age it is, our parents then become relatives, or they ought to be just a relative now.
Mm.
And all too often, parents are still controlling, parents are still parenting adult children. And
Mhm.
It can be hard for some people to move out from that oversight. It's a good
Mhm.
word to use.
Yeah, it's
So,
really.
Growing into Love is the name of our show, and it's about this. It's about seeing how we grew up, the environment that we grew up, the, in some cases, constraints that we were under growing up, which
Mm.
is natural. It's natural for our parents to teach us how the world is and how to be an adult in the world that they live in. And that's what we're learning from the age of 0 to 7. Where do we fit? Who are my parents? Who is the tribe I live
Mhm.
with? And what's my role in this environment?
Mhm.
And that's important because it sets a pattern and an understanding and a belief system about the world. So I grew up trusting people. I grew up going to playgrounds or going to other churches and being in other groups of people I didn't know and trusting all of them and saying to other children, "Hi, my name is Dawn. You want to play together?"
Wow.
So I have an innate trust for people. When I go to the grocery store, I'm not always looking over my shoulder. And that's
Wow.
different. Not everyone has that.
Mhm.
So, how someone else's environment created their belief system is strong, and it creates how you see the world and your perspective about how the world will be for you,
Yes.
or against you.
Yes. And that
I,
just keeps going forward unless we change it. Go ahead.
yeah, I want to mention one thing. My first child was a boy. I had a son, and I remember thinking about the idea of guns and toy pistols, and wondering, what should I have those kinds of toys in my house? Like, what's the thing about children? Because there's so much uh, death in the world, right? There's
Mhm.
so many people killing with guns. I really wanted to understand it, and I read some studies about it, and it turns out that children, and I grew up playing cops and robbers,
Mhm.
but I don't kill people, and I don't have the desire to kill people, right? But I'm a girl, so I wanted to understand what it is about boys, and what is it that in uh, that creates children who go to school and shoot, or who
Mm.
creates children who want to get guns and shoot, or then they become adults who do that.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
it turns out that it's all about the environment. So children who grow up in violent, gun-toting environments perpetuate violence and shooting with guns.
Right.
And I knew that was an environment that would be foreign to me raising my children, right? I'm
Right.
not in a violent situation. And so I didn't worry about him picking up sticks and playing cops and robbers. And I don't
Yeah.
worry about them having Nerf toys and
Mhm.
having Nerf wars or laser tag. That's
Mhm.
not
Or
a
video
concern.
games.
But there are a lot of parents who are concerned about that. No guns.
Mhm.
And a martial artist I know, his wife didn't want them to have any guns. And they knew their pursuit was fruitless when their son, he must have been 3 or 4, he ran into the living room with a teddy bear and held it like a bazooka and shot them with the leg of the teddy bear and then ran off, right? Like,
I know. There's always that. You can't take this away.
Yes, yes, yes. Even though they said, no, don't do that, right? I mean, it's
Right.
just, it's this thing about kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So violence perpetuates violence,
Yes.
and trauma perpetuates trauma, and abuse perpetuates
Yeah.
abuse. It's just so so it's we're fortunate as more and more conscious, more and more mature souls, adults, to be able to say hello to that and say, oh, I grew up like this. I had a big shift over the summer because I could not see how I was perpetuating some of the violence that came upon me. And some reader friends and Michael really helped me see, oh, when I get triggered like this, I act like that out of my mouth. I'm not like beating people up, but out of my mouth, these things happen. And I feel, I got to see the pattern. And I was like, oh, crap. Like, it was not a good mirror for me. It was not a happy day when I really saw it, how ugly it was. But then I could start to own it and clean it up. And for the rest of my life before then, those big times where, not all the time, but those big times that I'd gotten so triggered, I felt justified in like,
Yeah.
and then that went away. And so anyway, we perpetuate these cycles until we address them and let them heal and resolve. And it's not easy.
It's not easy. I grew up between two boys, an older brother and a younger brother, and there was always wrestling and punching. And I didn't realize how that behavior became how I was and who I was until I got a best friend. And I would punch her on the leg, right? Like it was so random and there was no reason to do it. But I was doing it, right? Like my environment was always, Charlie horse or punch on the shoulder or something. And I didn't realize it became a part of how I behaved until I got a best friend and she kept saying, don't punch me. I was like, what? Did I punch you? Right? I didn't even know.
Yeah. And all that isn't bad. Like, just like the gunplay, it's not necessarily all bad. Like for me, I don't usually punch the women, but I've had a few guy friends and some like it and some don't. Like, not to hurt, but just to, to play. And Michael and I, that's why we get along so well. I mean, we're constantly wrestling and pushing and playing, like pushing and punching, but it's really fun, delicious. It's loving and playful. So I don't know, we're well suited that way. So it doesn't have to be bad, but it is like there's a point at which it actually hurts, and that's not okay.
And I was doing it unconsciously.
Yeah.
Right. Like there was just this environment around it because I had brothers and
That's how you relate.
Yeah. Competition was fierce.
Yeah.
So about our theme, growing into love, and realizing ourselves, you realized your patterns, you realized this struggle that you had. And I realized I was punching my best friend. And growing into love is seeing what is, right? Recognizing how we're being and why we're being that way. And then choosing to change it or not.
Yes. Like, and is it, just like the punching or just like the guns, is it healthy? Is it actually connecting, or is it harming? Is it keeping us separate, keeping us from intimacy? These are really important questions. Hey, I just want to do a quick aside about the guns and the not guns, because it's a big deal in our society.
It really is, yeah.
What I'd like to say about it is that there's lots of families that grow up without guns, and there's lots of families that grow up with guns and are learned to handle them well and respect them, and there's go out hunting together and all these things. And so I just want to say, I'm agnostic about that. That's great. All that is great. It's a matter of when we have access to guns and we grow up in violence,
Mm-hmm.
that's when we see trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, if we grow up without guns and we grow up in violence, as I was saying about my summer thing, we still have the violence to deal with. It's still in
Yes.
us.
We
What
still
do we
have the
do with
violence
it?
to deal with.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and aside, I just wanted to be clear about that so that there's no like, oh, you guys are against guns or for guns or anything. That's not what the conversation's about, honestly.
Yeah, it's not. It's not
Yeah.
about that at all.
Mm-hmm. It's
It's about the environment.
it's the environment and like all the layers of programming and experience and the way we've been acculturated by our families consciously, unconsciously, that build up, build up, build up. That is just how it is.
Mm-hmm.
And what do we do about it? Like most people are like, well, that's just who I am. There's a lot of people that are, oh, that's just how I am. It's like, well, what if not? What if I can make a little space in there between who I really am and all the things I've learned to act like?
And that's an insight, saying this is how I am. Um, it has truth in it. And where did how you are come from?
Yeah.
And you can look to see, is that innately you, or is that a learned behavior? Was that
Mm-hmm.
something you picked up from the environment you grew up in?
Yeah. And for me, and this is like a kind of a spiritual woo thing, but what I've been realizing lately on a whole new level is I had a real insight about a month ago, and I was just like, oh my gosh, like I've known that the world that I experience it continues to change, and who I think I can be in that world continues to change. Like that's my experience. And that's kind of what we're talking about here. And that I can continue to mature and change consciousness. That's all like what we're talking about here. What I really experienced though is like all the parts where I thought were actually me, like really me, and my friends and my family who know me forever, who think they're me. I started to see, oh my gosh, like, is that me? But you know what? That's a trauma response. So it's been me so long I didn't know, but can I have a little space with that and allow who am I without that? That goes down to very deep. But I just wanted to say that who we think we are isn't necessarily who we always have to be. We can grow out of the acorn into the tree in ways that are healthy.
Yes. Even if it wasn't healthy when we first germinated.
Right.
With that, let's take a short break.
Thank you, We Are Historically, for your conscious human apparel. Shop online at wearehistorically.com.
For me, the thing that I care about is that you hear what's possible for you, that it's possible to change. It's possible to live the life that you want to be living. What I offer are inner tools to help make the changes that have been really hard to make, the impossible changes. You know how they say, just turn on a dime? Most people can't do that. Can't turn on a dime, but I have tools that can help. So please be in touch. I'd love to work with you one-on-one if you have something really deep, really gnarly that you want to handle. We can work one-on-one, or just sign up for my newsletter and you'll get a free workshop. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Darius Wilrich. I instruct an online video course that teaches anyone how to play jazz piano like a pro with my proven step-by-step system that makes it simple to learn. Jazz Piano Pro Essentials. Learn the quickest way to start memorizing and playing scales today. Download my free Quick Start Guide.
Welcome back to the Live by Heart Today show. Our theme today is growing into love, and we're talking about how we were raised and moving into adulthood and then being adults, and how we're being and recognizing if we're being our authentic self or recognizing if we're being something we learned from our parents or other guardians that were influential in our lives. And one thing I want to point out, Wendy, is that oftentimes the things that we're describing right now, that we recognize, the patterns, the behaviors, they are what we see as our identity. And if we cannot imagine ourselves without that identity, then we continue that identity. We perpetuate that identity. So when you say space, when you talk about giving a little space, it's recognizing from a place of objectivity, from a place of neutrality, and looking at ourselves to see, what is this behavior? Is that behavior for my highest good? Is this a love expression, or is it not? And is it for my highest good? Is it for their highest good? So let's talk maybe a little bit about recognizing that, or coming to terms with that.
Yeah. I want to, what was it? Socrates says the unexamined life is not worth living. It's like, it's like we're just dancing patterns that are old if we don't pay attention and notice. Then there's some patterns that work. There's sometimes we like. Fine. It's a matter of looking to the fruit. What's the fruit? Like what I was talking about this summer about sometimes when I really get stimulated, I can come out fighting. Whoa. And like that is not love. Right? It's like, I want to live love. I want to live truth. I want to live, my best life. I want to be in alignment with my source. And that is not it. And it's so clearly not it if I am willing to really notice. And then, all right, that's the fruit. That's not fruit that I want. And that hurts people. It hurts the people I care about the most because nobody else gets it. So am I willing to start owning that? Am I willing to start having the conversation? So, we're into these things like meditation and, consciously doing different practices. And that's awesome. But it's not even that's needed to pay attention.
Yeah. I have a great example of this. There were years, I'll say years, where trying to get my children to go to bed was very difficult. And it was the years when we were going to school. So they had to wake up early in the morning. And I knew that if they weren't in bed by 9 or 9:15, they would struggle to wake up in the morning. And that was a whole nother can of worms. And so I'd say, okay, it's 8:30, it's time for bed. It's 8:45, please be sure to brush your teeth. It's 9 o'clock, right? And then if it became 9:15, I would get more stern and more firm. And my husband said, why are you pissed every night? And I was like, I'm not pissed. They're not going to bed, right? Like I couldn't see it. And then I realized, I don't like this. What is it that rises in me that shifts that knob from patient and kind to, I said get to bed, and if you don't, I'm taking away this or that privilege, And I was lucky to find the solution, because that wasn't the way I wanted to be, but that was the way I was being at a certain point in time.
Yes.
And I traced that to an internal irritation. And my internal irritation, I traced that to eating chocolate after dinner.
Yeah.
And so it was just like that 3 hours after having had chocolate, it was finally in my bloodstream, and then I would change. It was like a Dr. Jekyll and a Mr. Hyde thing. And I kept thinking, but they're not going to bed. They're not,
Yes,
why aren't they going to bed?
Yes.
And now it's totally different, completely different. If it's 9:15 and they're not in bed, I say, it's 9:15 and you're going to have a hard time waking up tomorrow. I'd like you to go to bed. And they're a little older now too, right? And I don't
Right.
have to rush them out the door. So
Right.
lots of other things have changed. But really, the initial thing was chocolate irritates me inside, and then I
Yeah.
express that irritation to the ones
Yes.
I love.
Yes. And paying attention to that and be like, well, yeah, that was a stimulus that I, whatever. And I had this response, but am I responding as we talked about months ago? Am I acting or reacting? And when it's just a reaction, what's going on with that?
Mm-hmm.
And can we just start to inquire about that? And then if we're willing to be honest and be with, like, these amazing insights can come up, like, oh, chocolate doesn't work for me, or
Mm-hmm.
oh, this reminds me just like when I was little, or oh, and what am I going to do about it? And some people, they try all different things and some work. And I just want to say that you and I do great work around this with folks, and sometimes it doesn't have to take so long to be like,
Yes.
oh, I can shift a pattern.
And I'd love for you to talk about that work in our closing moments. I'd like you to share an opportunity to make a transformation, the kind of transformation that we're talking about, growing into love.
Mm-hmm. Starting the last day of February, I'm offering a whole week of interactive exercises every day. You could kind of just look and get the short bit about it if you want to. You can do it in person. It's going to be 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock each day, starting Sunday the 28th and going into Saturday the 6th of March. And you could do it online with me in person, or watch the video and do it at your own time.
And that's 1 o'clock Eastern.
Mm-hmm. And then those would be interactive things that you can do whenever, all around all our relations, all around who am I about love, and how do I relate, and what do I need, and what serves me and doesn't, and all these kinds of conversations that we have. And then on Sunday, the 6th, it'll be 2-hour dive deep into the soul workshop, where we actually do what is my real work, a taste of my real work. And that will need to be in person, 1 to 3 in the afternoon on Saturday Eastern. So thanks for giving me that time.
You're welcome. And it's very exciting, especially because it's February and we're winding up February, and we've been talking about the love month, and our show was talking about loneliness. And now today, with our growing into love theme, it is something that's possible. And I want to share with everyone and remind them that being how you want to be is a possibility. We are not constrained by the environment we were raised in, and we can change our current environment to create and be who we'd like to be. Mm-hmm. So what is the title of your 1 week program?
The week is called Journey into Love, but the workshop at the end is called Being the Love We Want. And it's
Wonderful.
all about experiencing here what we've been trying to get there out of them, to be able to have it here, and then we're free.
Fabulous.
We can act and not react, and we can be what we want.
And does someone contact you about that by leaving a message in the comments?
Yeah, I'll put on Facebook. I will put the
link,
the URL, and
awesome.
Also, you can contact me, wendyrwolf.com, or through Live by Heart. Yeah, all those ways.
Beautiful. That's exciting, and I encourage everyone to join, because Wendy's work is phenomenal. I've experienced it myself. It's helped me grow into a tree, independent, choosing, recognizing chocolate as my nemesis. So it's amazing work. I highly, highly recommend it. And of course, to Live by Heart, this work it really accelerates your progress to being able and capable of recognizing what your heart is and expressing it to others. Thank you so much, Wendy. And thank you to everyone who's watching today. We would love to hear from you. If our conversation spoke to you at all, please tell us what's on your heart by leaving us a comment below. For more information about how you can live by heart, please go to livebyhearttoday.com. Like and follow this page and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our programs. We're here every week on Thursdays at 4:44 Pacific time. From our heart to yours, we are creating a better tomorrow because we live by heart today.
And that concludes this portion of
Live by Heart today!
Thank you for watching. View more episodes on our YouTube channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's give a shout out to our sponsors. Shop online at wearehistorically.com. Conscious Human Apparel.
Hi, I'm Darius Wilrich. I'll teach you everything you need to know about playing jazz piano like a pro with my 12-week online video course and downloadable guidebook, Jazz Piano Pro Essentials. Enroll today at jazzpianopro.com.
Have a happy